Hello, everyone. This is again our Sunday Spotlight, and New Paradigm Theater Company and the New Paradigm Youth Board is producing this every other week, and we have a really special one this week. This is with Renee Lawless, Prescott, and Jenn Trepeck, and it's really regarding your health as a performer. So again, just to remind you, the New Paradigm Youth Board, and by the way, this week, Nate, who you've heard each time we've had a Sunday Spotlight. Nate was the one who put together this PowerPoint, and he's in the bottom right-hand corner somewhere there at the meeting. You can see what they have monthly board meetings. There are 4 of them up there in the right hand. There's Matt, who's also on the call as well. There's Matt being a singing waiter, and they're all going to have a chance to be singing waiters coming up May 11th for a nonprofit called Humanity Now, as well as May 17th, the United Way. And then we have Shelby and Shay, who are caroling for senior homes. They do a lot of really great things like that. So we're going to...
Kristen, I don't see the second screen.
We're going to kick this call off. And I'll introduce Renee to you. You can see a little bit of her bio here. But Renee is a friend of mine from a long, long, long time ago. We both actually competed at the Miss Ohio pageant together. And
I wish it was Miss America.
Yep. And
sorry, will you switch? We're not seeing your presentation.
You're not seeing the presentation?
We only see the first one.
I'm not seeing it either.
Huh, that's
no,
it.
We only see the first one.
There, can you see that?
There.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm glad that you all told me that. Sorry. Okay, so now you can see all the...
trying to say something.
Great. Now everyone can see that? Super. Yep. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. All right. So that's our wonderful youth board. Again, this was Matt right here.
Oh, got that picture.
Yeah, I know, it's so fun. And that's our youth board, and that's Shayna right there. And we have a really terrific youth board.
Thank you.
All right, now we can go to Renee. Again, Renee and I have known each other a long time, and then we met again in New York when we were both auditioning. Renee was doing Beauty and the Beast, and what I'm going to have them do, look how beautiful she is. Look at that beautiful redhead. You can read a little bit of
I'm not a redhead anymore, though, unfortunately.
Really? You're not red anymore?
No, it's more of a warm brown. They changed it for the show, and they've asked me to keep it for a while. I know. After 12 years, no more red. But
what I'm gonna have happen in this first 10 minutes with Renee is I'm gonna hand it over to both Matt and Nate and let them kind of ask questions a little bit about her career, but also, again, we're trying to relate this week's call to how do you stay healthy when you're when you're touring. She toured Wicked, and Renee, first of all, can you just tell us a little bit about your experience touring? How many years did you tour?
Oh, I was on the road for 5 long years. I hit almost every state in the Union, in the United States, actually, including Hawaii. And it was thrilling and exciting and very difficult to leave, I must say, but I had to do it. So,
right, and so I'm going to ask Matt and Nate. Matt, either one of you, do you have any questions you want to ask her about her tour? There it is. There's the part of her bio for Wicked. Matt,
I have a question.
Great. Yes.
How was being in a touring production of Wicked different than performing live on Broadway and like Beauty and the Beast?
Well, I can tell you, people often ask, what is the difference between being on tour with Wicked as opposed to being on Broadway with Wicked? First of all, it's a little bit more money because you get a per diem as opposed to your salary. That's the big plus. But as far as the show's concerned, what the actual audience member sees is exactly the same. As far as the actor is concerned, it's good and bad. The good is because you're moving around, and we were in a different city every month or every 3 to 5 weeks. You have an opening night every 3 to 5 months. and you have a new theater, a new dressing room, something is always new and fresh. You're learning a new crew. So that helps you as a performer keep it fresh, keep it new, keep it exciting. On the other hand, when you're on Broadway, it's like going to work every day. You leave your house, you go to work, you clock in, you do your show, you leave, you go home. And you're able to live your life at home with your friends or your family or whoever's around you and do your life every day normally. When you're on tour, it's about how do I get to the grocery store? How do I get to the post office? How am I going to do my laundry? So, tour has its pluses, and then I think as a performer, you're able to keep it fresh, not as monotonous. But as far as your personal life is concerned, that's where the conflict comes in.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
It did, actually.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
And Renee, how did you, and this is a big one, how did you, I can see, there's Wicked right there, right? And there's,
Yep.
Is this Madame Morrible over here on the right?
Yes.
Great. How often did you go on as Madame Morrible?
Oh, in the beginning, not very much. Just the last couple of years, I probably went on maybe total in 5 years, 20 times. Whereas when I was in Beauty and the Beast, I was on almost every week.
Wow.
For Mrs. Potts and stuff like that. But Madame Marble, it got more near the end. That number might be a little higher. I've forgotten, to be perfectly honest.
Okay. And how did you, I mean, it must be really tough being in different cities. How did you kind of take control of what was your routine, taking control of your environment and your health?
Well, fortunately, before we got to a new city, we were always given gym options. Now, I'm not saying that I always wanted to go find a gym, but you know, whether you wanted to take a class or take a yoga class to keep your your physical stamina up to par. But I always made sure that as far as my health is concerned, the hardest thing to do on tour is to make sure you monitor your sleep, especially on an opening week or a closing week. And I know this is very cliche, and when you're in theater, you have a tendency to stay up very late at night and sleep very late in the morning. But sometimes that's not necessarily a good thing, and by doing that, you sometimes don't get the amount of hours you really need. So I tried to monitor my sleep as best I could. Also, I made sure I had very good supplements with me at all times, and they were always accessible to me, whether by mail or by a store. It just so happens, Kristen, you introduced me to a product called OPC3. It's an triple antioxidant, and that combined with multivitamins and everything else I took to always maintain my, for lack of better words, immune system, because on tour, as opposed to a sit-down company, you are in a different environment and weather conditions, some humid, some not, every month. I could go from 32 degrees in 1 month, and the next month I'm in 76 degrees. And that wreaks havoc. And something I had to learn on tour, well, I learned it when I was on tour with Beauty and the Beast, and I applied it when I was in menopause and then onto Wicked, was that I used to think that your voice and my body was separate. They are not. They are, your voice is in your body, and I would be so careful about my voice, but I would neglect my body. And I had to realize that I couldn't afford to get sick. I couldn't afford to have allergies. And so I was very religious in taking these supplements to prevent that. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. Good. Excellent. So I know that you can tell us about this next thing that we see here. How did you get into from musicals? How did you, and I love this story. Did you get into TV, to the Tyler Perry show here?
It was always my ultimate goal to do television and film, and the way it happened was just a gift from the Lord. I tell everybody, because basically I knew I was time to leave Wicked. I was getting ready to give my notice and to come back to New York and be unemployed and homeless and pounding the pavement and looking for a job. But I knew I wanted to get on with other career goals and dreams. And I've always been a very proactive person, and I get emails from various actors' websites that show different auditions, etc. And it was 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm in Vegas, and I'm sitting in my bed on my computer, and I see something, and I clicked on it, and I read this character breakdown, and I said, you know what, that's me. And saw that it was from Tyler Perry. Didn't think I had a chance in heck of getting an audition, let alone the job. And I submitted a headshot and resume, and I have a hosting reel. You see your Renee's Way or the Highway. It's the only reel I had, and I submitted that. And 2 weeks later, I got a call to submit an audition, shocked. And 2.5, and then that was the 1st of October, and the day after Christmas, I got a phone call that they wanted to fly me to Los Angeles for a callback. And I walked into a room full of Hollywood stars and thought I was in the wrong place, and what are they talking about? And they are out of their mind. And then 2 weeks later, they offered me the job, and now I'm in Atlanta, and I just finished shooting. So it happened that quick.
That was fun. But you actually had some of your soap opera friends on tour with you, help you tape it, didn't you? Your audition?
Oh my, yeah. I was trying not to make a very long story long, Kristen. I was trying to give you a very short synopsis.
I thought it was really fun, though.
But yeah, Clifton Davis, who many of you might know from the series Amen, as well as other things, he was playing our Dr. Dillamond on the road. Kim Zimmer, who played Reva on The Guiding Light, 4-time Emmy winner, is our Madame Morrible, who I understudied. And Tom McGowan, our wizard, was from Frasier. And basically, Kim Zimmer was my cameraman, and Clifton Davis was my reader and director, and they both coached me prior to putting it on tape. The first time it was done very quickly. The second time they spent several hours, and I always feel like that, I had the best of the best. It was probably the best audition tape I will ever give in my entire life, because I had these award-winning actors on the other side giving me direction at every turn, and I was very blessed. And they were very encouraging. Clifton's the one that stayed up for hours and downloaded all of it and helped me edit it and send it. And they are the people I call when I have a problem, actually, too. So.
That's good. So, Matt, do you have any questions? This is the end of Renee's segment, and we're going to move on. But we'll have her back at the end when we're going to do a little bit of a roundtable. And everybody who's on the call, be thinking of some questions that you want to ask Renee or Jen or Reed when you get to hear them. But, Matt, do you have any questions that you want to ask her?
Actually, yeah. I'm starting my whole college tour process, and I saw that you received a master's degree from the Cincinnati Conservatory of Music. So I'm curious, just how was your experience at CCM, and how did your master's degree, if at all, affect the rest of your career?
I like to clarify, because I don't like to give. It's my master's studied. I never actually got the degree. I spent 2.5 years there. Long story, of which I will not bore you with the details. But I took every class and completed all the courses. It's just a long story. But I am a firm believer in higher education. There's never going to be a substitution for doing, and I must be very emphatic about that. But I am a firm believer in higher education, whether it be a master's or just a BA degree, because 2 reasons. CCM specifically, or to me, any school that you go to, as much as I love CCM, I would have said the same thing if I'd gone to Carnegie Mellon or if I'd gone to the University of Tennessee. You never, when you walk into an audition room, no matter what they say, casting directors do look at your education. They do want to see what type of training you have and who you have trained with. And as far as CCM is concerned, or any university, you never know behind that table where that particular casting director, music person went to school. And they might know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. And then all of a sudden you've opened a door and you're having a conversation about a teacher that you never thought you would be having. So absolutely, CCM, aside, completely separate from the training it gave me, has caused many a conversation in an audition room over and over again, and not to mention plenty of colleagues that I have worked with that also went to CCM. But I want to speak on that for just very briefly, that something else that CCM or Heart or wherever anyone goes to school, the reason why I believe in this higher education is it gives you a place to fail. Because when you are in school, if you mess up, do something wrong, have a bad night at the show, whatever, you are allowed to fail, pick yourself up, brush yourself off, and tomorrow is another day. In the professional arena, reputation and first impression is everything. I'm not saying that people don't go out and have a bad show and pick themselves up and come back the next day, but the acceptance of failure is not as strong out in the real world. So I encourage that higher education, and CCM gave me that and more.
Great. All right, everybody. So here's what we're going to do. For the first time ever, I'm going to try to hand off my change presenter is the button that we're going to push on the right. Jenn, so when you get that, I'm going to try to hand off my screen to Jenn. Now, this may not work. So then I'll just keep it and she'll talk. But here we go, Jenn. I'm changing presenter. I'm going to make Jenn Trepeck the presenter. I'm going to say okay. And now we should be on Jenn. Do you see Jenn?
All right, I have to select here to show my screen.
Yep.
So I'm saying yes. We should be able to get to... Do you guys see my screen right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
All of your icons.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. This is loading. Yep. Sorry for my... Give us 1 second here. So my portion here tonight is really talking about staying healthful and really well while you're on the road and what that means. And it actually goes back to one of the points that Renee made about how do you even find a grocery store? What are you going to eat? How are you going to survive and really build a lifestyle to support your craft? Okay, so the biggest thing that I want to make sure you guys understand tonight is that true wellness and health is not just the absence of sickness, illness, disease, and symptoms, right? So just because you're not sick does not mean you're well, right? Wellness is about having energy. Wellness is sleeping good. Wellness is everything revolving around your life in a bigger scheme. So just to give you guys a little bit of background on me.
She's my health coach, you guys. She's the one that's guiding me through TLS. When I talk about how well I'm doing and I make you guys keep a water log, this is the woman that is coaching me on that.
Yeah, so just to give you guys a little bit of background on me, my company is Better Life Now, and I work with people focusing on nutrition, supplementation, and creating a wellness lifestyle. So I'm working with Kristen with the TLS challenge where she's going to win $15,000. I've also worked with a number of other performers, both screen and stage performers. So I have an idea, even though it's not my personal background, of what you need to do in that world to not just be camera ready, but to have the energy for the stage and the screen. Just to show you guys my story here. Hopefully this is going to work, and go to the next slide. So my story, I was the skinny one growing up in my family. And then, here we go. Then I gained weight in college because that was the lifestyle. And my 21st birthday, my senior year of college, my parents said, "What do you want for your birthday?" And I said, "Honestly, I want you to pay for Weight Watchers." So that was my gift to for my 21st birthday. And I lost weight with Weight Watchers, but I actually also gained my weight back with Weight Watchers. And so here, the final picture on the right is me. That picture is even from about almost 2 years ago now, where TLS is really the only thing I've ever tried or seen anyone ever follow that actually creates health and wellness and an understanding of nutrition, and really resolves food issues. And I'm not saying that you guys have them, but if you do, this is a great program for that, and Kristen can tell you more about it.
Now?
As she's learning. So moving on, like we kind of mentioned, the nutrition is just one piece of a complete approach to wellness. So Renee mentioned the sleep factor and supplementation, and Reed's going to go into more detail on the supplementation piece, but managing your stress. What are you building into your lifestyle, whether you're at home or on the road, to decompress? Are you, maybe massages, maybe exercise, maybe reading a book, listening to music, but knowing how you can manage your own stress is going to be tremendous for your energy and your health, okay? And then piece of activity, we'll get into a little bit of that. So we're going to start with nutrition. And most people follow this philosophy of calories in, calories out. The reality is it's wrong. And everyone, I'm sure you're like, really? It's wrong? Because here's the thing, right? Calories in, calories out. At some point, you can't eat any less. And at some point, you can't move any more, right?
Right.
If it was as simple as calories in, calories out, I think most people would have this licked, right? So the reality is, this is one of the tidbits that you guys can take tonight. It's quality in, quality out, get up and move more. Okay? Quality in, quality out, get up and move more. You want to think about food as fuel. If you're going to have energy on the stage, if you're going to have energy in your life, we need to be giving ourselves proper fuel. So think about it, a car, right? A car takes gasoline, that's proper fuel. But if you filled the gas tank with paint, how well would the car run? You probably wouldn't, right? And you probably ruin the whole thing. So what we want to do is make sure we're providing our body with proper fuel so that we can run efficiently and do all the things that we need to do. So what is proper fuel? We want to think about energizing foods versus energy zapping foods. You've got your gasoline on the left, the energizing foods, and then your paint on the right, the energy zapping foods. So some of this is pretty self-explanatory, right? Certainly fruits and vegetables are going to be better for us than a donut and a cupcake. And no one's saying don't ever eat those things, right? But when we want to properly fuel our body, when we want to be able to get what we need on a daily basis, the majority of our food intake needs to be these energizing foods, okay? Another thing to notice between the foods on the left side, the energizing foods, and the foods on the right, the energy zapping foods, is that all the foods on the right side are going to have a label that you're going to need to read. All the foods on the left side just kind of are what they are, right? We don't need to read a label to know that that's an apple or to know what's in the apple. So thinking about that is really important. We're striving to fuel our body with quality, whole, nutritious, natural foods, okay? Another mantra for you guys to take with you is protein and fiber at every meal makes staying well no big deal.
That's good.
Protein and fiber at every meal makes staying well no big deal. Protein, lean meats, fish, clean, lean proteins. Fiber means vegetables and sometimes fruit, okay? Protein and fiber. And then intermixed with that, you're going to have some quality fats, extra virgin olive oil, walnuts, salmon, are quality sources of fat, okay? And then over on the side here, you see some grains and dairy. We really want to think about grains and dairy as almost condiments, right? That's the place. They're not a main food group. We're going to treat grains and dairy as condiments and focus on protein and fiber at every meal. And that really means protein, fiber every time you eat, whether it's a snack or a meal, okay? But the reality is, we all know we're going to eat foods that have labels, right? So how do we read a label? What are we looking for? Okay, so we're going to sort of do an overview of reading labels, and then I've got a couple examples for you. So first thing here, always look at the serving size of what you're eating. Our natural tendency is to think that one package is one serving, especially if we get a smaller size, maybe out of a vending machine. Don't be so sure that that whole little bag is only one serving, okay? We always want to look at the ingredients. Without getting into too much detail tonight, the reality is the marketing labels, the things that it says on the front of the package do not tell the whole story. Legally, they can get away with saying things on the front of the package that if you read the ingredients and you're educated, you'll know simply aren't true, okay? So an ability to read the ingredients and not be fooled by the marketing labels. We are going to look at fat because we want to know the sources of fat. We're going to look at sugar. Sugar is something that not many people talk about, and it is going to be the key to your energy, you guys. Sustained energy is about managing blood sugar, and part of that is about managing the foods that we take in. Again, like we mentioned, we're always looking for protein and fiber, so we're going to look for that in our food on the labels. And then net carbs. Net carbs is something that you're going to calculate. Net carbohydrates are often called impact carbs. This is the number of carbohydrates in the food that are going to impact your blood sugar. Now, I'm not a big fan of counting calories because, like we said, it's not calories in, calories out. It's quality in, quality out. So we're not going to count calories. The only counting we may do is calculating net carbs. Net carbs are the carbohydrates that are going to impact your blood sugar. And like we just said, blood sugar is the key to energy on a daily basis. So to calculate net carbs, you're going to look at the total carbohydrates, subtract out the fiber, subtract sugar alcohols, and subtract glycerin. If any of those things are not listed on the label, then we just have nothing to subtract out. All right, so let's take this into action here. So one of the things I hear from people all the time is that Kashi is a great brand that's health food, right? So, and everybody loves the Go Lean Crunch. So let's look at the food label and let's see what we think. Okay, serving size is 1 cup. It has 3 grams of fat, no saturated fat, and no trans fat. Those are good things, what we want. Going down, it has 13 grams of sugar. Kind of a lot, right? 9 grams of fiber. Here's a great tidbit for you guys to take with you. 9 grams of protein. The tidbit for you to take. 7 grams of protein is 1 ounce. Right? So whenever people talk about protein, they talk about it in ounces. So when we read a food label, we have to convert that into a frame of reference that we can understand. So 7 grams of protein is 1 ounce. So this is basically about as much protein as an egg white. 1 egg white is exactly 1 ounce of protein, or 7 grams of protein. Okay? To give you an idea and put all this in a frame that we can understand. Now let's look at those net carbs. So total carbohydrates is 37. There's 8 grams of fiber that we're going to take out. There's no sugar alcohols listed and no glycerin listed, so we're not going to subtract them, which gives us a net carb count of 29. Here's the thing about net carbs. When we're choosing foods, we want to choose foods that have a net carb count of single digits, 9 or less.
Mm-hmm.
So if this net carb count is 29, it's going to impact our blood sugar tremendously, which means that it's going to give us a spike in our blood sugar. We're going to have a lot of energy for a short amount of time, and then it's going to fall off. And then we're going to need to refuel. When you get that hungry, your body craves what will give your brain fuel the fastest way possible, and that's another sugary thing. Okay, so it can be a little bit of a slippery slope. We want to make sure protein and fiber at every meal to really keep sustained energy and fuel our body the way we need. Let's check out the ingredients here. So the ingredients, kashi, 7 whole grains, and sesame. I also recall that when we spoke a minute ago, we really wanted to keep grains as almost like a condiment. So now the number one ingredient in this is something that we really only want to be eating a little bit of. Then there's soy protein concentrate, evaporated cane juice crystals. Evaporated cane juice crystals is another name for sugar. So here, the third ingredient is sugar, right? Then you've got brown rice syrup, also sugar. So our third and fourth ingredients are really sweeteners. So do you guys see that by reading the label and being able to identify what you're looking at, you won't necessarily be fooled by the marketing that says Kashi Goleen Crunch is a health food?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So let's look at another alternative. So TLS Weight Loss Solution is the name of our brand. However, we have what we call a nutrition shake. So for people who need either a quick snack or as part of a meal, the TLS shake might be a great option. And compare this, you guys, if you like protein shakes or anything, compare this to protein shakes that you might find in your store. So a couple things that I want to point out here, and this is a little difficult to read, but the first thing is that there's only 2 grams of sugar. There are 10 grams of fiber. Okay, when we're reading food labels, we want to choose foods that have at least 4 to 5 grams of fiber, if not more, per serving. And then the protein, there's 18 grams of protein. That is just shy of 3 ounces of protein. That is a solid serving size. Okay, so almost 3 ounces of protein, 10 grams of fiber. This is a great choice. Okay, and only 2 grams of sugar. Also, if anybody's interested in reading this, Kristen can show you where to find that food label on the internet, so it can be a little bit clearer for you. All right. When we're on the road, we're also going to be reading menus, right? So we want to think about this. The same rules apply. We're looking for protein and fiber at every meal, quality in to get quality out. And especially when you're on the road, we need to really think about eating out not as a special occasion, but really as an at-home meal replacement, right? So sometimes it's really just about what would I make for myself if I were home, and ordering that when you're out. So on a menu, check out the appetizers, the sides. We want to be choosing foods that are steamed, grilled, or broiled, and stay away from things that are fried, sauteed, battered, cream-based, or dairy, right? And the biggest thing I think at restaurants is ask for what you want. They'll give it to you. You're paying for it, right? So read through the menu. If there's a side from one thing and a protein, you know, if you want to mix and match, odds are they'll do it for you. It's just about being willing to ask for it. Okay, another big component of this is getting our bodies moving. Move your mass, okay? Muscle dictates metabolism. In order to have energy and stamina on stage and on camera, our bodies need to be trained. So with getting active, we want to look for things that are cardio. We want to make sure we're getting all 3, cardio, strength, and flexibility. Okay, cardio is using your heart as a muscle. Strength and resistance training is building muscle. And flexibility makes sure that that muscle is usable. Okay, have you guys ever seen a bodybuilder type who like can't raise his arm or couldn't put something away on a high shelf? That is not functional muscle, okay? The other thing, like Renee was mentioning, is that your immune system is incredibly important when you're traveling, especially. Scientifically proven that exercise, immediately after exercise, your immune system is about 20 to 30% higher than it was before you got in that activity. So if you're ever on an airplane, Make sure you get your exercise in before you go sit on that plane. All right, 20-20-20. What is this? If you're watching TV, it's a commercial break. You're going to do 20 push-ups, 20 crunches, 20 lunges, or 20 jumping jacks, 20 crunches, 20 lunges. Okay, try it. Find 20-20-20, 3 things that you can do in a commercial break, and just give it a shot. All right? Thinking again, cardio, strength, and flexibility. I want to dispel a myth here, especially because you guys are on camera a lot or on stage a lot. Just because you're thin doesn't necessarily mean that that is camera ready, right? Look at this little picture on the left here. She's thin, but is she going to look as great as the girl on the bottom right on camera, right? And I really want to dispel a myth here, this picture at the top. Ladies, you are not going to look like that if you just lift some weight, okay? You're going to look awesome. The camera's going to love you. All right, so again, thinking about these pieces as just one part of everything and really looking for a comprehensive approach to staying well while you're on the road. The last thing I want to leave you guys with is what I call my bullseye concept, okay? In every situation and in general when it comes to our health, the first thing we need to do, the outer layer of our bullseye is our environment. What are the things that I need in my environment to be successful? Maybe you need to know where the nearest grocery store is. Maybe you need to be traveling with some snacks and food that you have on you that you know are great choices. Maybe you need to make sure you have something in your bag so that you don't walk into an audition with low blood sugar and therefore low energy. Okay, so the outermost layer is our environment. The next thing we do is look at our behaviors. Okay, what are the things that we do on a daily basis? How do we support ourselves physically and mentally and with our stress and everything around being a performer? The collective of all those behaviors are our habits, right? The more we repeat these behaviors, we have habits, and the collection of our habits creates our identity. And when you identify yourself as a whole, well, healthful person, that will be reflected in the way you stand, in the way you present yourself, and in the way other people see you because of what you're projecting. The ultimate objective with our identity is to be what I call unconsciously competent. In the beginning, to think about these things is going to take some effort. When you're on the road, it's going to take some time and energy to make sure that you have an environment that supports you. But by becoming unconsciously competent, we can really keep going, and then it's not going to take as much time and energy and thought.
Great.
All right?
All right. Now what I'm going to do.
All right. So, Kristen, how do I hand this back to you?
Actually, I think I can actually hand it right over to Reed. And
Excellent.
okay, clicking makes him the presenter, and then Reed will just accept, and I'll unmute him as well. Reed, you can accept the presentership.
I believe I have. Can
There
you hear me?
did.
And do you see my screen?
I did.
Yes.
And so everybody,
Awesome.
this is Reed. Reed is a very good friend of mine, and he's also going to tell you a little bit more about himself. He was the executive director of New York Theater Barn. He was a model. He still could be beautiful, but he's done a lot of things with wellness, and I think a lot of actors are actually into this, so it seemed like a natural segue, and I'll hand it over to Reed.
Thank you, Kristen. Yeah, that is my background. I actually, I grew up in Southern California. I went to the Orange County High School for the Performing Arts. If anyone is a fan of Glee, I went to high school with Matt Morrison, who plays Mr. Schuster. That's my little name dropping for the day. I moved to New York about 9 years ago. I was in for those of you who are musical theater fans, you might know of a show called Bear. I was in the original Los Angeles production of that, and that was my catalyst for moving to New York. I had emergency back surgery in 2007, and I no longer had a body that could do 8 shows a week. And so I had to look for something else, and I was always looking for something sustainable that wasn't waiting tables. And I stumbled upon a company that I get to work with licensed health professionals, and I actually help them implement wellness programs into their practice, and it's become sort of my calling and my vocation, and I really, really enjoy it. After my back surgery, I actually produced theater. I was the executive director of the New York Theater Barn, And it's funny, Renee, you mentioned that product OPC3, which I'm actually going to share with you a little bit about tonight. That actually, it's not only an antioxidant, it's a potent anti-inflammatory, and it's a natural anti-inflammatory. And I had some residual pain from my back surgery, and it was this particular product that actually got me out of that residual pain. And Kristen, you were actually the person who introduced that to me, so I can't thank you enough for that.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. So Jenn talked beautifully about the kinds of foods that we should eat. And I'm going to talk about why maintaining optimal health is so important and what we can do in addition to the foods that we put in our body to help us achieve optimal health. Because optimal health is different, like Jenn mentioned, than just being well. It is having energy. It is being able to sleep. It is having the endurance to do what we do as performers. Whether you're on the road, whether you are in New York or in LA or in any city, anywhere, doing what you are training to do. And these have been the top killers in our country. They still are. They're all preventable, by the way, but they're not going away because of some of the things that Jenn mentioned about the marketing of the foods that we eat. So it is so important that we look at food labels. Now, you guys are all in college, and I remember when I was your age, and these things on this list were not of any of my concern. Most of them don't run in my family, and that's a good thing. And if that's the case with you, you're on a great path. But we have to be aware that if we don't take care of our health, these things could be in our future. And how do we stave these things away? Now, this slide says this is the typical Western diet. I'm willing to bet this is the typical college diet, right? How many of these did you have today? Be honest. How many cups of Starbucks did you have? You know, and like Jenn said, it's okay to have these once in a while, but our typical diet is refined sugars, refined flours, hydrogenated oils, fake fats, not the healthy fats that Jenn shared with us. Coffee, by the way, coffee depletes the water in your body. For every ounce of coffee or caffeination that you take in, you lose twice the amount of hydration from your body. So if you are going to drink coffee, by the way, I'm not saying don't drink coffee because I swear by it, just make sure that you're getting the adequate amounts of water. So if you're going to drink a venti coffee, drink twice that in water to maintain your body's normal hydration. And as a country, we are overfed, but we're undernourished. And we're the wealthiest country in the world, but we've traded our health for wealth. And there is a huge movement happening throughout the world, but certainly in our country right now, on getting back to health. So what are the solutions? Adequate nutrition, first and foremost. You may also want to think about doing some kind of a cleanse or a seasonal cleanse or detox. So we're not going to talk about that tonight, but that's something that you might want to consider. And Jenn, by the way, has some wonderful, healthy ways to cleanse. The master cleanse is not one of those healthy ways to cleanse, just so you know. For the rest of my time, and I'm going to keep this brief, I am going to talk about what the additional things we can do, what we can supplement our nutrition with so that we can achieve optimal health. Because unfortunately, while it is so important, I'm going to go back, while it's so important to eat the right foods, the truth is that the soil in which our food is now grown, the nutrients have depleted. So an apple today has significantly less nutrients than the same size apple 20 years ago, 50 years ago, and certainly 100 years ago. I can't remember the exact number, so please don't quote me on this, but you would have to eat, I think, 20 to 30 apples today to meet the nutrient quality of one apple from the early 1900s.
Wow.
That's how much our soil has changed. And now with the whole genetically modified stuff, which we're not going to talk about tonight, but it's scary, and I don't even want to think. And we have to, as a society, as a country, as a people, take control of what we put in our body. And this is not what I meant to talk about tonight, but we all have voting rights when it comes to what we are putting in our body. And that's the money you choose to spend on the things that you put in your body. So when you can, buy locally grown foods. Make sure that if you're going to spend money on supplementation, that you're spending the money on a quality brand of supplementation. And I'm going to share with you one of those quality brands. This is actually what I talked about the soil being depleted. before I talk about some specific products. Most of you, I'm assuming, at some point in your life, you've taken a multivitamin. You may have taken some other stuff if you work out. You've probably taken some protein powders and stuff, and you've looked at a label but not known maybe until today how to read it. The percentages that you see usually on the right side of the label, we usually think, oh, if I can get up to 100% of whatever that ingredient or nutrient is, then I'm good. That's actually not true. Those are the RDAs, the recommended daily allowances. And first of all, they were created in the 1940s and they haven't changed. But those, so remember, our food was more nutritious in the 1940s, but on top of that, that 100% of whatever that nutrient is wasn't to achieve optimal health. It was to stave away some diseases that fortunately for us don't appear anymore, but things like rickets, which is a lack of vitamin C, which sailors used to get centuries ago because they were on ships for so long with no kind of citrus fruits, which is one of the best forms of vitamin C. So we're very fortunate as a society and certainly as a country that we have the ability to stave off those things. But those numbers, that 100% of vitamin C or whatever, is not to obtain optimal health. That's to simply stave off some diseases. So when we're looking for supplements, we have to choose the right ones that are going to get us to where we want to go and where we want to be. Now, we have many choices when it comes to different kinds of supplements, the forms they come in, and what we want to look at is the bioavailability of these products. Bioavailability means the amount of those nutrients that your body will actually absorb, right? So there are many, many high-quality products on the market. And by the way, if you are buying them from, say, a Duane Reade or a CVS or a Walgreens and they're on a shelf, most likely those are not the high-quality ingredients. If there's a television commercial for a supplement, they're spending more money on the marketing than they are on the quality of the ingredients. That's a general rule of thumb that you can be safe to live by. And also when it comes to supplementation, you really do get what you pay for. So if you're going to Costco and getting a gigantic tub of multivitamins, you're not paying for quality. And remember, Jen told us with food, it's quality in, quality out. It's the same with supplementation. So a high-quality tablet or pill or capsule is going to have very little, if no binders or fillers, but there's still, because of the form that it's in, it's going to have a limited bioavailability. Now, a low-quality form is going to contain binders and fillers like talc or sawdust, right? These are things that we don't think is going to be in a health supplement, but they often are. And if you have a bottle of something, say from a Costco, when we're done tonight, go get that and see what's in that. Look at the actual ingredient list. Now, when things come in capsules or gel caps, they're usually a higher quality. Oftentimes, there's some kind of oils, and they have to be stored in the gel cap, but there's still a limited bioavailability. And if you have something that comes in a liquid form, you are usually going to get a higher amount of bioavailability from that product and those nutrients. Now, we're going to take things one step further and talk about isotonic nutrition. Now, what does isotonic mean? Iso means same, tonic means pressure. If any of you have ever been in the hospital, I hope you haven't, but if you have or you know somebody who has, they have been hooked up to an IV with a bag of clear solution. That's actually isotonic nutrition. It's the same pressure as their blood, their sweat, their tears, their internal bodily fluids. And it's going directly into their bloodstream and feeding their body with the nutrition that they need. There are many naturopathic doctors and other integrative doctors that do IV nutrition in their practices. So the next best thing that anyone can do to having something stuck into their veins is to find an oral isotonic solution. Now, the products that I'm going to share with you tonight are all from the same company and they're all the same brand. And basically they come in a powder form, so there are no binders or fillers. There is no added soy, wheat, or dairy to any of these products. Some of them are vegan, some of them are vegetarian, so if that's part of your lifestyle, you definitely want to take a look at the label because they all will be different depending on the ingredients and the nutrients that are in them. So it's a powder that you mix with a specific amount of water, and you actually drink it on an empty stomach. It's recommended first thing in the morning, before coffee, before brushing your teeth, before jumping in the shower. Because your stomach, if it's empty, remember it's the same pressure as your internal bodily fluids. When you drink the isotonic solution, it registers as already digested, and it opens something called the pyloric valve, which is the door that goes into the small intestines where the absorption of nutrients actually takes place. Now, your food stays in your stomach, and the stomach acids break it down until it turns into an isotonic solution. So we're just taking one major step out of that process so your body can absorb it. So an IV nutrition, with, you know, stuck in your arm, that's 100% available to your body. The products that we're going to share with you tonight are anywhere from 90 to 95% available to your body. So like I mentioned, you want to drink these on an empty stomach. Within 5 to 10 minutes, they will be completely absorbed into your body, and they're delivered with no dilution, no binders, no fillers or coatings. Okay, so in addition to what I'm going to share with you in a little more detail, that we want to make sure that you're on a wellness regimen, right? A multivitamin is not something we take once. Supplements are not like drugs, right? You take a drug so that you feel better. That's what they're designed to do. Supplements are designed to be your foundation, your baseline to achieve optimal health. Actually, your food should be that. Supplements are going to help fill in those gaps. So I want to share with you an isotonic form of vitamin D3 with K2. We live in the Northeast, or at least we are right now. If you're working with Kristen at school, you're definitely in the Northeast, whether or not that's from where you're from. And you are living in through winters, and we don't get a lot of sun. So everyone in the Northeast is deficient in vitamin D. When you're supplementing with vitamin D, you need to make sure of two things: that it's vitamin D3 and that it has K2. Without the K2, your body cannot absorb or utilize the vitamin D3. Most vitamin D supplements that you get across the counter will not have this, right? And because it's isotonic, because it's that delivery system that gets it into your bloodstream within 5 minutes, you're actually going to absorb 95% of what it says on the label. This is the OPC3 product. Just so you know, OPC3 stands for oligomeric proanthocyanidins. And Kristen, there's a spelling test on that, right? Before the webinar's over?
Yep,
okay.
I'll take a note.
I can say it.
But can you spell it? Don't worry, there's no test.
Phonetically.
Okay, so we already talked a little bit about this. For me, it was the anti-inflammatory factors. As a singer, or anybody who uses their body or voice, and as Renee shared with us, they're connected. They're the same. This is the baseline for you. If you're breathing, you need to be on an antioxidant. You should be on an antioxidant that's going to reduce inflammation throughout the entire body. Because this literally changed the quality of my life, I can't recommend this particular product enough. Something else that you may want to look into is we have an OPC3 skin health or a beauty blend. Women, this is something that you probably will want to look into. This has additional minerals in it: calcium, magnesium. I can't think of anything else, but it's a specialized formula that has that antioxidant, but it's going to provide the nutrients that your skin needs as well. And of course, the baseline, or I should say, the most affordable form of health insurance, right? Because we're actors, and not all of us are going to have health insurance all the time, and that's the unfortunate fact of this career path. A multivitamin that is of high quality and that your body can absorb is the most affordable form of health insurance that you can ever provide for yourself. This is going to literally fill in the gaps of any dietary deficiencies from our standard American diet. It's going to support all the things that these other products that we've been talking about. And this particular product that you're looking at here comes with or without iron. And you may know if you have an iron deficiency or not. If you are in your early 20s, you probably don't. And you're eating well. Now, this next product is an activated B complex. Now, this is an entire array of B vitamins. It's not just B6, it's not just B12, it's not just B5, it's not just riboflavin and thiamine. Those are all B vitamins, by the way. This is an entire combination that works synergistically together, and the Bs are activated in this form, which means that your body doesn't have to go through an additional process to break down and utilize the B vitamins. So many of us do already take a B vitamin, usually in like a capsule or a tablet form. We already talked about the difference in quality and bioavailability, but if those Bs aren't activated, then your body has to go through an additional process. to break it down. And it's, if we don't have to have our body do that, then we shouldn't have to do that. Now, this particular product is wonderful for mental clarity and endurance. This is also a great replacement for that sort of 3 or 4 in the afternoon slump when we think we need another cup of Starbucks. What we really need is B vitamins, because the coffee is actually depleted our B vitamins. So do a shot of this, and yes, you actually can drink these like a shot. So that's kind of a fun thing to do. I will share with you something. I sometimes do some parties in my home and some other people's homes, and we do a detox while you retox party. It's a lot of fun. But we make sure we always have B vitamins. And I'm going to end with this. Any singer who's on the webinar tonight, you have to have Ultimate Aloe. If there's 2 products that you get tonight, you have to have OPC3 and you have to have Ultimate Aloe. We have it in a powder form. It's not isotonic, but they're travel packs. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the actual juice. When you're looking at an aloe juice, you need to look for like a certificate or a label that says AISC. And you won't find this on many aloe products. That stands for the International Aloe Science Council. And without that stamp, it is not assured for quality and purity in the aloe content. You can go to a CVS, or here in Manhattan, you can go to a bodega and you can get something that says, that's called aloe juice. They can literally put in a drop of aloe juice in an entire batch and they can market it as aloe juice. If it has that stamp from the International Aloe Science Council, then you know you're getting the quality. So just so you know, from aloe, so we know what aloe does for the top of our skin, like if we burn ourselves, it does the same wonderful thing for the inside of our body. So if you're doing it for vocal health, you're going to want to take a couple little, like about 2 or 3 ounces every day. If you start to feel a little scratchy, definitely do a little bit more. If you are dealing with digestive issues, then you're going to want to take a little bit more aloe at one time, because it's going to take a little bit longer to get down there. Basically, aloe juice, a quality aloe juice, is great for anything from your mouth to your rear end.
Reflux.
And everything
right?
in between. Your butt.
Reflux too, right?
And what?
And reflux, acid reflux.
Absolutely. Which for singers is deadly.
Yes. Yeah.
And that actually concludes my portion. If you have any questions, Jen, myself, and I know Kristen, you know a lot about this, and we'll be happy to answer them, whether it's tonight or anytime in the future. Thank you, guys.
We actually do have a couple of questions from the field. I am going to unmute, and Matt, and actually I'm going to mute Reed just because there's a little bit of an echo. But if you have a question for Reed, I'll unmute him. I'm going to unmute Grant Benedict. He had a question, and this one might be probably Jen. Grant, go ahead.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Hi.
I was wondering if staying gluten-free is a healthier way of living.
Great question. The thing is, guys, gluten-free has turned into a fad in nutrition the same way that low-fat, no-fat, low-carb, no-carb turned into these diet fads. If you don't have a serious allergy, or if you are not sensitive to gluten, there is no reason to unnecessarily restrict gluten from your nutrition. Gluten actually is the protein found in grains. So if we're keeping grains in the appropriate place in our nutrition, treating it as a condiment, you're going to be okay. If you do have a gluten intolerance, then you do want to be staying away from it. But the other side to that is, just because a food is gluten-free does not mean it is a healthful choice. So rice does not have gluten. Okay, so a lot of foods that are now called, that are labeled as gluten-free are made with rice flour. Rice flour is going to impact your blood sugar more than a whole grain. So sometimes you're better off choosing a bread that has actual whole grains rather than the bread that's called gluten-free. Does that answer the question?
Yes.
Perfect.
All right. Now we have another question from Sajane, and I'm going to say it for her. She says, can you ask her, how do you manage your meals with late rehearsals and early time-consuming auditions?
Oh, I can answer that.
Oh, good.
Renee, go for it.
Can you say the question one more time just to make sure I get it all in the
Yeah.
right order?
How do you manage your meals with late rehearsals and early time-consuming auditions?
Um, it's a little bit about what Jen said earlier, and it's something because I'm dieting myself right now and I've had to learn to plan ahead. Um, you always, 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 and it doesn't matter whether you are dieting to lose weight or you just want to be prepared, you want to always have something, a protein bar, an apple. You're going to always want something with you at all time. Late rehearsals, I guarantee you, if you have a late rehearsal or if you are doing a show at night, you have had dinner break. You have had a dinner break. There is no rehearsal schedule anywhere that is not giving you a dinner break sometime. So you need to make sure you have had a high protein and a good back to what Jen said, a protein fiber thing at your dinner, and that you've got an apple or a nuts or some kind of protein enriched bar or something with you for the rehearsals. At the end of that rehearsal, yes, I'm hungry. If I don't care about it sitting in my stomach all night, and Jen will speak to that, then yes, I'm probably going to go home and have a light snack. I have found a protein shake with fruit, with a couple of handfuls of spinach and kale, and no, you do not taste it, goes a very, very long way. And it's a perfect end of the night snack for me that I don't feel like I've blown it out of the water. As far as early morning, I am now back in the gym. I know it's a miracle of God, but I am back in the gym. And I am making myself work out in the morning because that's the only way I'm going to do it. And I have been told by my instructor that my zooming out the door in the morning for something needs to have a protein something. Well, if I'm in a hurry, I'm going to try to find a nut kind of bar or some type of protein that I can take with me. If you insist on an early morning Starbucks, because Starbucks opens at 6 a.m., they have a very good spinach feta wrap that you can get on the go, and it's got protein and your veggies, and it's got a little more in the condiment on the side, Jen. Sorry about that on the wrap, but it is a protein and vegetable. So I'm speaking to you now as an actor, and like sometimes I walk out the door with a nice kind bar, which is fruit and nut or something like that. So I'm speaking to you as an actor now. The late rehearsal, it's more about planning ahead. You know if you have a late rehearsal, and you know if you have an early audition. Now Jane can speak to nutrition.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. It's really about planning, always having something in your bag just in case.
And my
Right?
students know I do that.
Yeah, and it's that whole like protect your environment thing. What are the things that you're going to need to have on you? As far as eating time of day, and people say, oh, don't eat after whatever time, and don't eat after whatever time is really just about cutting calories. Your food intake needs. Can you guys hear me?
You, Renee. Go ahead.
Okay.
Keep going, Jen.
Your food intake needs to be based on your schedule. So ideally, you want your last meal to be about 2 hours before you go to bed. That would be ideal. Okay? So if you're not going to bed till 1 o'clock in the morning, it's not weird to eat something at 10:30. Okay? A general rule of thumb, the later you eat, the lighter you eat. The later you eat, the lighter you eat. Okay? And first thing in the morning, always make sure you get something in your system to get your metabolism going. Okay? If you go too long in the morning without fuel, you're going to kind of burn out before you even get started.
Right. And I'm going to ask a question too, and this is something you taught us. Jen does a weekly call for anybody who's doing TLS, and one of the things that she said, and this I've been very conscious of this week, is if you eat something sweet at the wrong time, like if, you know, how we like to have a little dessert, or I've been trying to stay away from anything sugary, but if I have that, like if you're at someone's house, and before you have dinner, you see a little a cup of M&Ms or something, and you just grab that. Now, anything, of course, that's going to spike your blood sugar, but anything you eat after that, including a salad or something healthy, it's going to recognize it as also spiking your blood sugar. You want to say that better than I just did, Jen, but I've been really conscious of that this week.
Yeah, sure. Are you guys familiar with the old I Love Lucy episode of at the Candy Factory?
Sort of, yeah.
Okay, so Lucy and Ethel are at this conveyor belt, and they're supposed to take the candies, the chocolates that come down, wrap them, and then put them back on the conveyor belt to go to the next stage. Basically what happens is that they can't, as the conveyor belt comes at a nice pace, they're fine. They can do what they're supposed to do. When it comes too fast, they can't keep up. They end up shoving the candies like in their pockets, in their hats, in their mouth, like anywhere they can. Your body is kind of doing the same thing. The process of when you eat food, insulin is supposed to carry the food to your muscles and your cells to be used for energy. If we eat high glycemic things or things that are sugary, or we eat too much, our body overproduces insulin in order to compensate and carry all of that sugar and fuel to the muscles and the cells. Okay? Now your muscles and your cells can only take in so much at once. So they take in what they can, they close, they're like, okay, move on, I'm done. Your fat cells are always open. So your fat cells say, no problem, come over here. So not only are you storing everything that you're eating as fat, but all that extra insulin is stored as fat. So when our body overproduces that insulin, because our muscles and our cells can only take in so much at once, when that's caused by eating the wrong foods, right? So if we sit down at a restaurant and we start with the bread basket, that bread now spiked our blood sugar. Our body is overproducing insulin to deal with that bread. And now our muscles and our cells are filling up with that sugary fuel. So now, even though I ordered steamed chicken and vegetables as my meal, it doesn't matter. My muscles and cells are already full from the sugary bread. And that meal that was such a great choice is now being stored as fat.
Great. All right, now I'm going to just one or more, two more questions. Matt or Nate, do you have any more questions for Jenn or Renee about, the business, or Reed?
I actually have one.
Okay.
This goes to Reed or Renee.
Yeah.
Do you have any experiences where you didn't do something and then you got sick the night before you're supposed to go on for a show or a call or something? Am I making any sense with that?
I didn't do something, or I just happened to get sick the night before. I'd be a little bit more clear on that. What?
If you pretty much forgot to take care of yourself and you stayed up pretty much you did everything incorrectly and you ended up getting sick the night before the opening night or the big preview.
Right.
Okay.
Or an audition or something.
All right.
Has that ever happened to you?
Are you?
I can speak that I've done every single thing correctly and still gotten sick.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Let me make something perfectly clear, and I'm sure Reed will completely agree with me. The one thing I love about what I do, as far as how I take care of myself, even though I may not like my weight or something, but as far as how I try to take care of my performing body, is I am not a perfect person in that I rarely, emphasis on the word rarely, get sick. I never usually get any allergy scenarios because I have been able to address that. Rarely does not mean never. I am not a perfectly immune person to getting sick. And this actually did happen to me in the production of a Have and Have Nots. The person that rarely gets sick, I got sick. Now, because of proper nutrition and proper everything else, I managed to save my voice. But I was hacking a lung, and I was really on set every day, and I had to work around it and take. And fortunately, my character at the time, without giving anything away, happened to be in the hospital, so it worked for me. But let me speak to being on stage. Life happens, and you can do everything right, or you could be out till 3 in the morning drinking your head off. Now, if you're out 3 in the morning drinking your head off and you have an audition the next day and you're sick and you don't have a voice, that is your fault. And you pay the piper. But like I said, you can do everything right and still get sick. And what you have to be able to do as an actor is say to yourself, A, am I just feeling a little sick, but I can still do my job? Or B, I need to stay home so I don't get everyone else sick, or B, hurt my voice because I'm singing on inflamed vocal cords. I will always err on the side of caution. And so I understand what you're asking me, but there is no right or wrong answer to that. Sick happens. Right. You know, we can do everything right and get sick, and we can do everything wrong and get sick. Right. So, but more times than not, if you do everything right, you're not going to get sick.
Right, right. Okay, so I think we probably should wrap it up. This was one of our longer ones, but I think it was so informative that it was good for everybody to hear this. And I hope that those of you who might have tuned in late will go back and listen to the recording. I'm going to go ahead and post that on the Facebook page. You just have to like NPT Youth Presents Sunday Spotlight. And then you'll know what our next, in 2 weeks, what our next Sunday Spotlight will be. I want to thank Renee and Jenn and Reed for giving their time tonight and their expertise. If you want to know anything more about what you've heard tonight, you know, you can certainly talk to me about that as well. You all have my email address. And if you are interested, as you can hear, I mean, I turned Renee and Reed on to OPC3, and I was always happy to do that for any of my performer friends. All my Broadway cast was on that. If you want to know more about that, and I can help you guys get discounts and stuff as well. For that, you know what my email address is. And unless anyone has any other pressing questions, we will call it a night. Thank you all so much for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kristen.
Good
Thanks,
luck.
Kristen.
And we'll watch
Thanks
you
so
on
much,
TV.
guys.
We'll watch you on TV, Renee.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.